Hello, everyone. My name is Enrique, and welcome to another review talking about Daredevil Born Again. This time, we're talking about episodes 5 to 6. So, I hope you are comfy. And remember, if you haven't seen any of the Daredevil episodes that I talked about, please check out my link. You'll see all the episodes being reviewed. And like I said, watch the series. It is actually pretty good and is very violent. Back into the same styles that we saw back in 2015 to 16. It's the same style. So now that we have seen Matt Murdock building the anticipation of him becoming Daredevil, as well as Wilson Fisk trying his best not to become the Kingpin, only to fail miserably, we now are going to see how the tensions are boiling up to the point of no return. And that's what we're going to see. But before that, we get a little bit of a bottle episode in episode 5. So let's talk about the two episodes. And pretty much just like in the premiere, we see two episodes today. Probably, I'm not sure what it is. Maybe because they thought that episode 5 was not going to be as good as the others. Maybe they think that it's just a bottle episode. Regardless, I'm gonna get to my thoughts on episode 5 and 6. So, all that I need to know is that be careful, spoilers. If you haven't seen these episodes, please watch them. If you don't want to get spoiled, you need to watch them in order to get all the focus. So, with that being said, let's talk about the first episode that we see, episode 5, called With Interest. The episode begins, as I mentioned before, as a battle episode. This is basically an episode that doesn't necessarily impact the story of the entire season or makes a point of having a crucial moment, which we're going to see in this episode. But is what I mean by that is that it's an episode that we don't see many of the main characters or secondary ones, depending on who is writing and who is the focus. So the focus in this episode is basically Matt Murdock going to the bank, trying to talk to the bank agents in order to get loans for the company, only to be interrupted by a gang of thieves who are trying to rob the bank. So basically, that's the story. But interesting fact about the bank owner, or at the very least the bank assistant, is none other than Yusuf Khan. Yes, Yusuf Khan, played by Mohan Kapoor, who you probably remember him for his role as Kamala's father in Miss Marvel and The Marvels. Now, whether you like or hate those medias, if you like Miss Marvel like I do, then you're probably going to enjoy it. If you've seen the Marvels, you probably hated it. But one thing that I really enjoy is Yusuf Khan being a very supportive and very optimistic character. This is something that I really enjoy from the performance from Mohar Kapoor. Is actually bringing a lot of joy in an episode that is bringing a lot of dread and a lot of mature content. They said the F word 2 times in this episode. I mean, Jesus Christ. I mean, this is dark, but it's basically like that. Both Yusuf and Matt are talking about how to get bank loans. Yusuf trying to help, showing this little Funko Pop about his daughter Kamala, who he says that she's in Los Angeles, California, meeting with a group of friends, alluding to probably the Young Avengers. Wink, wink, wank, wank. Actually, you cannot see me wink, but it's pretty cool to see that Kamala is very active. But more importantly, it's really sweet to see Yusuf having a Funko Pop of her daughter in his desk. That is really wholesome. It makes the character really, really sympathetic and one that you want to see go through to this horrible experience of getting robbed. Now, the episode is basically like that. There's no other scenes from other characters. There is no focus in any of the other supporting players that we have seen throughout the episodes. No Frank Castle, no Vanessa Fisk, no Heather Glenn. It's just Matt Murdock and Yusuf Khan trying to survive along with other victims and hostages from this Irish gang who's trying to rob a bank. Now, the interesting thing about this bank is that they don't want money. They want something important, which is basically a jewel. Now, throughout the episode, we don't know what kind of robbery is this because, as they explain it, the bank doesn't have tons of cash waiting around. It's basically tons of deposit boxes that contain important things. As we see one of the hostages talking about, and how this is pretty much a weird strategy for a group of Irish criminals trying to rob a bank in the middle of the day in St. Patrick's Day and trying to get this jewel, but and they don't even know why, and even if it will work. All I know is this, and all we know is this, is that they're willing to go through anybody to get the jewel. Now, one of the leaders who's playing one of the leaders of the gang, basically, I don't, which is using, ironically enough, a mask that is very green, is basically trying to talk to Detective Angie Kim, who we saw in the first episode, played by Rubio Quian, or Ruibo Quian, if I'm not mistaken. But basically, they're trying to negotiate who's going go. Matt trying to sense what's going on and trying to use his knowledge as well as his skills in order to get everyone alive. So throughout this episode is basically just seeing how Matt hears the other criminals trying to put out a strategy about robbing the bank, seeing them trying to negotiate with each other. It's basically like that. A very bottle episode in which we see the skills of Matt Murdock to get out of a situation without necessarily beating up some bad guys in this Daredevil suit. Although we see that Matt, because he's in a very tidy and very difficult situation, he has to resort to punching and destroying the criminals, not killing them, thankfully, but yeah, basically using his fists in order to stop the criminals. Obviously, he's trying to be sneaky and very silent in order to avoid detection, but yeah, the point still stands. Matt Murdock is trying to get alive as well as the other hostages and trying to figure out what the hell is going on with this bank robbery. Now, interesting fact about these criminals. They all wearing different color masks, basically. And one of the things that I've seen that is probably a reference is that it's maybe a reference to the Infinity Stones. Now, obviously, there is not a six member with an orange mask, but it's basically, yeah, there are five criminals with five masks with colors. Green, which we all know is for time. Red, which is not only Matt Murdock's color, but it's also the color of reality. Yellow, which is mind. Blue, which is space. And purple, which is power. Now, why do I know that this is a reference? Well, because the jewel that is being talked in this episode is orange. Now, I don't think that this is an infinity stone because obviously the soul stone is being destroyed, and from timey-wimey time travel stuff, it was basically just that, not existence. It's just another jewel that one of the leaders called Luca wants for himself. Now, one of the things that they mention is that there is an infiltrator inside the bank. Obviously, when you want to rob a bank, you need someone on the inside. It's none of the workers, of course. It's a woman. I can't remember the name, but she has a short hair and bangs and wears sunglasses on her head. But yeah, until the end, we don't know that it's her working with the enemy. but it's basically like that. We see Matt trying to figure out and conning basically the criminals into thinking that they robbed the jewel, only to not be true, and returning the jewel back to Yusuf Khan and the bank, which is pretty wholesome and it's pretty nice from Matt's behalf, and tricking the criminals into not stealing the diamond or the jewel. I can't remember at this point, but yeah. And we see Matt wearing one of the gang's masks, which is red, of course, and beating up the leader. And by God, it felt almost forever since we saw Matt cracking some knuckles and basically taking down some criminals. But it's good that we saw that because the anticipation, it just keeps building up, and we're going to see things going and progressing the more we see it. But in the end, yeah, it was basically that an bottle episode, nothing that big to begin with. But honestly, I like those bottle episodes because not only do they bring a sense of, reality to the whole thing, but it's also good to see characters that doesn't necessarily have need any more of the supporting roles or the supporting cast in order to get a good episode. You can always tell one simple story with one character and make it great. It's what makes it unique. So yeah, this is probably the most unique episode that I've seen. Now, I don't know what the others are going to say. Other people probably won't like this episode because it doesn't impact anything and maybe they will see it as a waste of time. Who knows? All I know is this. That is definitely different from the other episodes, and I like that. I like that we see other characters that are not necessarily main characters or supporting characters that we already know of, except for Yusuf Khan, basically showing us the streets of New York, how they work, how people operate, how people handle negotiating situations, bank heists. It's good to see Matt being put in that sort of situation. And it's good that even though he's still not the Daredevil in this episode, that he's still a good man and a hero. But now that we already talked about episode 5, now we need to talk about episode 6, Excessive Force. Now, the episode does bring us back to where we were left off. So, like always, we see things progressing. We see BB Yorick interviewing more people from the streets of New York, talking about how the city has gone unsafe, how things used to be better with vigilantes around, but more importantly, that there is a mass killer on the loose of New York. Now, this is obviously alluding to Muse. Muse, for those who don't know, is a character from the comics, which is basically a sort of vigilante, if I may be. Not exactly a vigilante, actually. This guy is a psychopath. This man kills innocent people by using their blood as painting equipment. This guy literally uses human blood in order to make his spray paints. Talking about the city, talking about the people, talking about how he hates the Kingpin, how he considers the White Tiger a good hero, or putting more Punisher logos. Now, other than the fact that we already know who the actor is, we don't know much about this character, but we know that both Wilson Fisk and Matt Murdock are discovering that this guy exists, but they don't know what to do. But we are going to see progress in this episode. So, speaking of Matt and Wilson, we see that both Matt Murdock and Wilson Fisk are basically already going to the boiling point of their lives as they try their best to keep their personas of Daredevil and Kingpin in control, which is obviously something that they thought they could maintain for a while, but not enough. Now, obviously, throughout the episode, we see Matt trying to think what to do, especially with Muse on the loose. We see his relationship with Heather, trying to break the barriers. I mean, Heather is trying to push Matt to be more open. Because obviously, when you're talking about a character who has been living on this big secret of being a vigilante, not being able to tell anyone other than to his closest friends, who one of them is dead and the other one is gone. I'm talking, of course, talking about Karen, who's gone, and Foggy, who's dead. And many people, and he doesn't have pretty much of a inner circle. Hell, I don't think even Kirsten knows that he is Daredevil. Only Cherry, and Cherry's keeping it all secret. And on the same flip side of that coin, Wilson Fisk, who's trying to do his job as a mayor, trying to protect the people of the city, still can't contain his, more corrupt side in control. As Vanessa is keep slowly but very subtly irking him into being the kingpin, talking to the police captain about not letting the news of Muse being spread out, trying his best to not go into his basic instincts when he gets a visitor from one of the gang members. And even funny enough, by getting a talk down by Jack Dukens. Now, Jack Dukens is played by Tony Dalton. If you remember him from the Hawkeye TV series, he was one of the guys who was basically a red herring, thinking that he was one of the criminal masterminds behind a criminal operation in New York. Now, we all know that wasn't true, and he was actually a pretty funny guy and a good example of a guy who's trying to do good. In fact, in this episode, we see him twice, not only in a gala as Jack Dukens, but also in a vigilante form. Because let's be honest, when we see him fighting bad guys with a sword, we obviously know who are we seeing, right? I mean, I'm not the only one who thinks that this is another guy wearing a sword or using a sword to hunt down and stop criminals, right? But yeah, throughout the episode, we see the Kingpin trying not to let his Kingpin persona out. But it only works so well, and the more he spends time with with the people at upper power, and thinking of them as parasites, talking about the needs of the city, which just makes him bored and makes him very anxious. It's just a matter of time. Now, about Matt, he's actually trying his best to be a good lawyer until we see that visit from one of the Hector's niece. Now, you probably remember her as Angela, Angela is basically trying to show Matt that she needs help. The city needs help because of Muse, because he's on the loose and she doesn't know what to do. And honestly, who can blame her? Basically, this guy is trying to kill people, or no, he's killing people, leaving their bodies on the side of the shore, and it's causing more trouble. But yeah, basically, Angela is trying to say to Matt that he needs to do something. That she doesn't trust the police because obviously they kill Hector, and things are just getting worse and worse. She doesn't know what to do, and I think this is alluding to the fact that she knows that Matt is Daredevil, which is honestly not surprising for me. But yeah, this is getting harder for him to contain. And going back to to Wilson Fisk, he has an idea, which is basically create a task force in which all vigilantes are prosecuted or at the very least executed, using one of the all the cops. They're basically using the tattoos from the Punisher tattoos, and Kingpin, knowing about this, he uses that in order to hunt down, in order to create a task force, anti-vigilante task force, in order to stop Muse. Now they don't do anything in action, but we see the founding members of that anti-vigilante task force. And one of them is one of the detectives. I think it's called Chief Gallo. No, that's one of the guys who he's blackmailing into being the captain still. I think it's Adam. Yeah, I think his name is Adam. But basically, one of them that we already saw in previous episodes is basically joining the task force that Kingpin is organizing, meaning that things are finally going to get really, really bad for our heroes, especially Matt, because now that we saw that Angela was investigating about the disappearance of the people, because that was one of the cases that Hector was investigating before he got killed by one of the cops. It was basically discovering about Muse, and she went out to investigate, only to be captured by Muse himself. And this forces Matt, because he gets a call from Soledad Ayala, Hector's wife, in which she tells to Matt that Angela disappeared. Now, this obviously makes Matt very nervous, and he makes the decision to either call the police or to be Daredevil. And he chooses the latter. So, yeah, no cops. In fact, he says F it and goes on the run to fight and stop Muse. And at the same time, we see that Kingpin is going to his lair where he has Adam in a cell and basically giving Adam a fighting chance, basically, to stop him or to basically to kill him. And this proves to be, well, not good for Adam because the Kingpin destroys him. And at the same time, we see that Muse is trying to get Angela's blood in order to create his paints, but Matt thankfully stops Muse. Now, I heard a lot of things that Muse was supposed to be the main villain of season 1 of Born Again. But I think because of the new restructure and because of the reshoots and the whole creative overhaul that they had to do during the strike that they had to stop production in order to restructure the entire show in order to accommodate for these more familiar elements, is pretty much showing that it's not going to be the case in this point, because Muse appears and he gets into a fight with Daredevil, and it's almost over because Muse escapes. But basically, we see finally more bloody action. We see the Kingpin destroying Adam, claiming that Vanessa is mine, because if you remember, Adam was using Vanessa, or at least Vanessa was cheating on Fisk with Adam. And Matt is trying to find Muse, stop him from getting more of the blood from Angela. And just basically, we see that the guys couldn't contain their personas for too long. It was time for the devils to be let out, for Daredevil to come out, and for the Kingpin to let loose. It's basically like that. And we're now 3 episodes left to see what's going to happen, what the Punisher is going to do. But yeah, in this episode, we see Matt fighting Muse. He almost kills him. By God, I'm glad he didn't. But he was on the edge of killing him because he felt, screw it. If he's going to kill people, I have to stop him. But thankfully, that doesn't come to fruition. And in the end, he ends up leaving Muse aside and helping Angela and saving her. Meanwhile, we see that Wilson is finally admitting and finally letting his persona, the Kingpin, be let loose, which I'm sure that's what Vanessa wanted, to let the Kingpin be loose, because that's the man who she fell in love with. And we see Matt no longer containing his rage and having to accept the fact that he needed to become Daredevil. Now, probably in the next episode, is probably going to find an excuse to say, "Oh my God, I almost killed Muse. I can't let this happen again." Probably asking Foggy for forgiveness. One of the things that I like that they bookend in this episode is the fact that Matt is praying at the beginning of the episode with the picture of Foggy from his memorial in his hand, and the episode pretty much ends with the quotes the recitals that he was saying in this episode while he was trying to save Angela's life and succeeding in saving Angela, basically. But yeah, it was good to see, and it was good to know that Daredevil is finally out, and now the Kingpin is going to find out eventually. We all know that, and whatever happens in the remaining 3 episodes is going to be explosive. So we have to wait and see. I don't know what's going to happen in the finale. My guess is that Muse has escaped, has been gone, and we don't see him throughout the entire season until season 2. Maybe we're going to see all the corrupt police officers wearing the Punisher logos attacking Matt or attacking the Punisher, and Matt has to save him. We don't know for that for sure. We don't know what the Kingpin is going to do after he forms this task force. Maybe make the entire New York very militarized. Who knows? And what about Bullseye? Keep in mind, Benjamin Poindexter, aka Dex, aka Bullseye, is still alive. And judging by the promos that we saw at the beginning of the season, we know that he's going to be let loose and he wants to do something. Maybe kill Daredevil, maybe kill Kingpin. I don't know. But I know one thing: things are going to get worse for everyone, and it's up to Matt to figure out what is going to be his next move. So, yeah, 2 overall good episodes. I don't know what you guys think. If you love it, do you hate it? Let me know in the comment section below, and stay tuned for more notifications about what's going to happen in the next episodes. All I know is this: if this season finale is going to be an indication of something, it is going to be a war between vigilantes and the Kingpin. So we gotta know what's gonna happen. So until then, I hope you guys enjoy this episode and this review alone. And I've been Enrique, and I'll see you next time. Take care.